Sup?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Book of Flynn. I'm Vinzer Flynn.
And I'm Reigna Flynn, and I should never be in charge of the introductions.
Nope, that was perfect. Oh, we're back. And the sun's finally out today. I hate being the old man talking about the weather every podcast, but given that the sun came out for the first time in this long winter, we were soaking it up.
Absolutely. It was really nice, and it wasn't even windy either. I felt like I could walk outside without having 5 layers on.
I could smoke a bowl with just a sweater on. It was great. Well, where are we at here? I think we're a little over halfway through these 2 seasons at this point.
Yeah, we are on Season 2, Episode 15 of both Star Wars Clone Wars. So if you haven't watched that yet, pause, go watch that, or just for some reason only listen to us because you're chaotic. Then we've also got Season 2, Episode 15 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Phases, which Vinzer will cover after this. So if you're chaotic, stick around. If you're not and you want to know what we're talking about, go watch them. We'll wait. Just kidding. You can pause it.
You could watch these and still be like, what the hell are they talking about?
It's true. I don't use the proper name for anybody. Speaking of which, Senate murders. Searching for truth is easy. Accepting the truth is hard. Prediction. A bunch of politicians are going to get a face full of truth and they're going to deny it because it's easier than dealing with it.
No, that's the news you're reading.
Sorry, wrong headline.
One of these predictions going to be like, protesters protest Massameda while he tries to ski in Vermont.
There's a recap, of course, with the clones fighting on the ground versus political games played by the Senate. Halle Bertoni, which she gave me like mob vibes. I think it was the name, like Bertoni of the Caminos, along with a group of other senators, wants to make more cannon fodder, clone troopers. Senator Amidala is apprehensive knowing that more troops means the fight lasts longer, and creates a bill to cut military spending. We open to Padme's pad, and she's in a room with a few other people, I assume are senators. Don't give me that look. You love Padme's pad.
Was I giving a look? They must be doing it subconsciously now. I have to say that when they did the recap for this episode, I was like, in my voice, I was hearing, look at all the actions on the fronts, but let's do a political show about spending. Really?
13-year-olds love budget cuts.
Oh boy.
Padme is finishing up a holo call with Senator Stonk. Nope, I won't be making fun of that name. And he's like, I won't be supporting you in this vote. Another senator who I didn't originally remember, but I did eventually remember who this was throughout the episode. He was the one who basically gave her to the Nemoidians last time. Was that what happened? He made a deal with them.
Oh, the Rhodian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I think he was in season 1. She calls him her uncle Onaconda.
Yeah, when they said, oh no, that's when I remembered who it was, because I remember making jokes about his name. See? It helps.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is the hairdo of Padme I hate. This one. The big waterfall.
I like the one with the net. I like the one that kind of is like her cash look, where it's kind of like the net. She wears that in the middle of wearing her waterfall hairstyle.
I have issues about how quickly it's Star Wars time, how quickly she changes her hair from one situation to the next. I'm like, sorry, I'll be back in 4 hours after I get my hair, put up.
Yeah, I actually had that note, but then I realized it was a different day, so that made sense. But I was still like, and then right later, again, she's back in the waterfall hairstyle. So yes, I did notice that. She calls him uncle, and when I didn't remember immediately who this guy was, I was like, yeah, I totally see the resemblance. They have the same bipedal nature.
2 arms, 2 legs. Yep, yeah, they're related.
Yep, exactly. 1 head. It's great. Senator Farr, or Ono, has a lot of influence with the Senate and his own planet, and refers to mistakes from his past and making him want peace now. And that's when I remembered that it referred to the issue in season 1 where we saw him in a couple episodes. Senator Organa, Senator Smits, walks in and tells Padme that the Senate is ready to hear her. We have a little scene in the Senate hallway where Padme is like, "Oh, I'm just really nervous." And Uncle Ono is being a sweet uncle, being like, "Oh, she's always downplayed her efforts." And I'm like, Ono's gonna die. Senator Amidala pleads her case and to turn down the vote for more troops. Turn down for what? Sorry, I had to do it once. And focus more on diplomacy. But I get her point. Totally see it, totally understand it. However, it only works if the other side is playing the same game. And unfortunately, they're not in both real world and Star Wars world. Her speech seems to be well received, and she gets a lot of applause and pondering from senators. Even Senator Stonks looks like he might change his tune. I tried to make that a fart joke, it didn't work. Padme leaves her platform and is met by Senator Definitely Not Sketchy Deechy.
I was like, Reigna's going to have a good nickname for this Nosferatu-looking guy. I know it.
I actually don't have much. Deechy just kind of spoke for itself. He had the chisel chin and a sinister look about the eyes, so he's totally a great guy. Totally could trust him.
I thought at least we'd get a Nosferatu, What We Do in the Shadows. Peter.
I didn't make that connection.
Oh yeah, he
I think
looked totally like
stuck on his chin.
Like an old Victorian vampire or something to me.
Side note, fun fact, I actually watched the original Nosferatu movie on the day that it turned 100. It had 100 years of release. It's just a fun fact. Yeah. Deechy tells her that her speech is unpatriotic. The only thing I find unpatriotic is your warmongering. Boom! Drop the mic. Amidala leaves. Crowd goes wild. Over back at Padme's pad, their premature celebration. And I have a line where I go, "They're pouring drinks." And I cut that because right away, because Senator Farr goes to pour his own drink and then someone beats him to the punch. I didn't realize who it was at first. I didn't recognize that. I didn't know if I should know this person. Have we seen Lolo before?
I don't remember, actually.
So I didn't know who this was. I just thought it was one of his, like, helpers or something.
Right.
And he goes to pour his own drink, and the person who we come to know as Lolo steps in and does it for him. And I really liked this sweet little moment because it shows that he's grounded and humble and he's still doing his own things. I'll be mad if he's murdered. They're prematurely toasting the success of Padme's speech, and she's like, well, maybe we should chill out for a second and wait for a verdict to come in. In comes the elderly Camino, and she starts judging the beverage. She's really getting catty.
This is curious to me that there's a Camino in here. Like, wasn't their planet hidden from the Jedi archives? Like, and now they're just in the Senate as politicians. It just seems weird that now they're just here.
And he actually, Senator Ono actually takes a stab at her, saying that the only reason she's there is because they are in charge of creating the clone troops. She basically bought her way into the Senate. And I was like,
Oh, there you go.
And then he walks towards her and she's backing up and he's like, yeah, that's nice. Thank you for coming. Have a nice day. Get out.
He like presenced her out of the room. He just like, kept walking.
Pretty much. It was a very good point that he holds a lot of power and influence. The only thing that frustrates me about this whole thing is that she accuses Padme that her bill to have less troops is part of a separatist plot to take over the Republic. And I'm like, little does the Camino know that the takeover, they're all working for the separatists already and they don't even realize it.
It's so frustrating.
Ugh. Padme takes it as a good sign if Bertoni is visiting and she seems a little shaken, and Farr wishes he had done more sooner. To victory and an end to this war. Hindsight. Ono suddenly says, "Oh no, my heart," and collapses.
Oh, I should have seen that one coming.
Yep. Over on the landing pad on Coruscant, I guess he died. Like, this wasn't really made clear in the last scene.
My note says Clone Wars, the cartoon, not afraid to not only kill motherfuckers, but then show you their funeral.
but not his death scene. Like, justice for Farah, his off-screen death, because
Yeah.
that was it. He literally goes, "Oh, my heart," and then he drops. So it's like, wait, was that it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the scene cuts with the idea that maybe he'll get help and be okay, but no, they just go, "Oh, here he is in the coffin."
They're like, oh no, was a courageous man. And I'm like, holy shit, what just happened?
Here's your answer.
10 seconds ago, he was ushering Camino out of the room.
It's another case of the Monty Python. Oh, he died. It's happening a lot lately.
He did not, in fact, get better. Rodian is giving a speech and mentioning his questionable past. Man, this guy could not live this down. Ooh, too soon. And a very random group of people are standing around listening to this speech. We've got the leader of Mandalore, who's for some reason still there, Master Fury.
Just wait for her ship to gas up. You're right. She shouldn't have been there any longer.
No. I'm like, okay, aren't you leader of the neutral systems? What the fuck are you doing here?
Shit to do.
Don't you have 1,501 planets to run?
Yeah.
We got Master Fury. I don't remember his name. Yoda, Senator Smits, C-3PO, the not at all sketchy Chancellor. And then they're like, well, anyways, and then they just load him on a ship and take him away. It's very, very cut and dry. The female Rodian, who the show hasn't bothered to name yet, is worried about carrying on without his guidance, and Padme's reassuring her. And then a Senate guard, who I keep thinking is a Mandalorian offshoot,
Yeah.
goes up and is like, Chancellor Palpatine is waiting for them in his chambers. And I'm like, but he was just right there. Why didn't he say, can you come with me to my chambers?
I don't know if you remember in Return of the Jedi, the Emperor had these red Crimson Guard guys. I think Crimson Guard's actually from G.I. Joe. But anyway, yeah, these blue guys are like the early versions of that. They're like Royal Guards.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. I don't know if they're
Cool.
part of the Republic or if that's just from Naboo or something. But either way, he adapted them into his Red Guard guys.
I just got confused why he couldn't tell him himself when he was standing right next to them.
Now, sticking to proper channels, and then there's this. Come on.
Palpatine's pad, because he also has a pad. Chancellor informs them that there's a Lieutenant Devo who has questions for them.
Right now, everybody, Rain is like rubbing her eyes under her glasses.
My God, man, this character. Wow. Okay. He comes out of the darkness, and his 5 head takes like an entire time zone to catch up to the rest of his face.
That's a 55 head. 55.
He's literally, his eyebrows are in his chin. I don't understand the graphics.
He's the kind of guy who's got an ass all the way up his back. He gets his wallet out by reaching over his shoulder.
So Lieutenant Fivehead is like, did anybody hate Senator Farr enough to kill him?
Who's gonna say yes? Yeah, I didn't like him.
Yeah, and Lieutenant Fivehead reiterates that he wants to find who killed him because he's dead, and that's why he's here. I'm just like, who wrote this guy?
Written by AI.
Written by the same person who was yeah last season.
We better check the writing credits on that.
Ugh. I don't know who I dislike more, this guy or the middle management monkey droids. Because he reminds me of a mix between, you know, that know-it-all kid from Victor's favorite movie, Polar Express?
You know, I've never actually seen that movie.
There's a guy who talks like this. And he's a know-it-all kid. And it's like he got off the Polar Express, the wrong universe, and decided to grow up investigate murder. And also Professor Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter. Anyways, now that I'm done bashing him and his heads, he states that there was a poison detected in the bloodstream and that the poison is the method of politicians, while in a room of politicians who just lost their mentor/uncle. Shout out to the little rabbit droid who's like struggling to carry all of his little data pads.
These poor things.
I know. Padme's like, he wasn't hiding anything, I swear, and it might have been something to do with the bill they're currently voting on. And Lieutenant Fivehead is like, ugh, I'm not going to listen to anything that you have to say. I have my own investigation to run. So she's like, okay. But my question is, hey, sir, with your giant brain, why are you even asking them questions if you're going to disregard everything they have to say? So he leaves to keep investigating so that they can keep senating. His words. He literally has no idea what he's doing. And Palpatine says the concept that Far was murdered is inconceivable. The senators are starting to become concerned that they might be next, but Senator Smits reminds them to focus on the vote. But Padme is like, let's postpone because no one's going to focus on that right now, and she's going to go conduct her own investigation. Senator Smits is like, well, I'm coming with you. So over at Dichi's dwelling, Senator Dichi, accompanied by Bertoni, not at all sketchy, they find the idea of his involvement with Ono's death to be very humorous. They said he was helping them with his befuddled quotes, I guess. He spoke a little funny every once in a while. I don't know. Maybe they just thought he was a laugh riot.
You think they saw these guys coming in on the door camera, like, oh shit, turn the villain lighting on. Like, it was all bright and cheerful, like a normal office. Then they like turn the red and black lights on or something.
Padme thinks that they're tired of Ono opposing them and decided to silence him. But Senator Dichi's like, I respected him despite his opposition. Whereas, like, Bertoni, who's probably 3 glasses of alcohol in at this point, goes, well, for the record, I didn't. Cheers.
Yeah, fuck him.
I don't like this person, but I really appreciate her energy.
Yeah, there's a bit of a Gen X, and what are you going to do about it kind of fucking attitude there.
Yeah, she gives me a little bit of Golden Girls vibes. While Senator Dichi is talking about how much he respected Ono, it zooms in on a glass being poured for Senator Bertoni. And I'm like, well, it's called Senator Murders, not murder, so here we go.
Exactly.
Dichi's talking about how Ono had a secret meeting at the docks of somewhere I couldn't catch, but it sounded like Derelict Major. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either. At this point in my notes, I said, like, ooh, this hot political action. I wonder what the clones are doing.
Yeah, right? I'm just like, oh, can we go back to the who's going to be the new bartender for the clone troopers? Because they lost him a couple episodes back.
It's pretty bad when Clone Wars needs a spin-off from the Clone Wars show so we can see what the clones are doing.
Clone Wars. When asked how he knew about this meeting, Dichi just was like, I was following him to get dirt on him so I could use it against him.
That's honest.
Yep, I appreciated that. And I didn't really think that this guy actually was involved, really, just because he seems too obvious.
Yeah, it's like a really obvious red herring. I mean, the guy looks like fucking Nosferatu, fucking evil guy. But yeah, he's just like, he was pretty honest about what he's doing.
Yeah. And I was waiting this entire scene for Bertoni to kick the bucket. Like, I really thought we were going to see her die right then. But nope, we head over to the docks, not the Sunnydale docks, so there's no swelling music and teenage drama going on the other side there. We just have Padme and Senator Smits investigating the docks while a shifty shadow investigates the claw that's holding a cargo container. We see the cargo container actually moving into position overhead while they just start having a lethal weapon discussion moment.
Yeah.
Being like, are you using this to avoid your grief? And she's like, no. And then she pushes him out of the way and then a crate drops. But it looked like they had a lot of room, but I guess this crate was huge and completely blocked the way because Smits had to go all the way around or something.
Yep.
Plot magic, whatever. He also talks about, he's like, well, maybe we're out of our element. And I'm like, maybe you, Senator Smits, but this is just another date night for Padme.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep calling him Jimmy Smits. Bail Organa has plenty of, like, you know, rebellion-related cloak and dagger stuff later. But yeah, you don't really see him going around, you know, shooting guys and kicking ass. I mean, whereas Padme has seen a lot of shootouts.
Yeah. And we can see her continue to channel her not boyfriend throughout this episode. Padme is being pursued by someone, and just as she's about to shoot, she realizes she's pointing at Senator Smits, who warned her that someone's above him, and that person starts shooting at them. Senator Smits almost goes over the side of the crate, and that's when I realized how high these docks are. These are higher than, like, the entire civilization. This is real high up.
Yeah, it's cool.
The traffic looks like ants. The scene cuts to just this thing crashing into dying speeders and screaming because the police are like, Ben, coming in, they're almost dead speeders again.
They're defeated siren sounds, man. They just had given us like.
Instead of the siren, it should just be, who cares? Who cares? Off camera, sure enough, there's Lieutenant Fivehead, dripping with condescension. She's like, I had information. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you would have listened to a single thing she said. I'm pretty sure you made it clear that your brain had no room for her tiny facts.
Yeah, well, when you were dismissive, I just stayed that way.
My friend was murdered. I don't care about rules. And I thought that was just a powerful quote from Padme. I had a thought about Lieutenant Fivehead in this scene. I think I would have liked him better if he was voiced by Armin Shimmerman.
Yeah, that would have been a great call.
Right? He's the only guy I know that can take somebody truly cringy and make you hate that you like them.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Snyder, Quark, like I would have been on board with this guy if he opened his mouth and Armin Shimmerman popped out. Would have been on board. He's the only guy who can get away with it. He tells them that they alerted the killer and that's going to make his job so much harder. He's complaining about the paperwork and Padme's like, anyways, back to the investigation. I wonder if they were sent there on purpose. Maybe the two senators know something and set us up. And they run off and he's like, wait, what are you doing? Come back. They catch up to Dichi's dwelling and they barge in and they're like, we're gonna get you, man. Oh, you dead. Sure enough, Senator Dichi is dead. And I didn't see that one coming.
No,
somebody
neither did
staked him.
He's like, don't move, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to say, I was like, oh, I guess it's the Camino woman, but it still seemed way too obvious for me. Unless she's like Yoda in the way she walks with a cane, but is suddenly as agile AF, I don't think that was her at the docks.
Yeah.
But Lieutenant Fivehead catches up and he's not wheezing. I was a little surprised. I thought they'd have him like breathing heavy, that he was running after them, trying to keep up, but he's complaining about the dead body and alas, more paperwork. Back at Padme's pad, the lieutenant is saying that they need to stay here under his protection. This is where I ask, why aren't there Jedis assigned to them?
Yeah, you think they could spare one, or maybe some more of those blue Senate guards or whatever. Like, where's the security in this place?
Yeah, I'm so filled with all of the confidence because he's like, well, even if they break through my security, we probably won't have time to kill all of you. What? Even Padme actually agrees with the lieutenant, and Lolo's like, no, absolutely not, and just runs out. The lieutenant gets Bertoni's name from Padme and heads off to investigate, but she's not in her room, and it sounds like she left Coruscant, but I guess not, because when we go back to Padme's pad, Lieutenant Fivehead is talking to another senator in the foreground while Smits is, talking to Padme and commending her on her actions. And Lolo bursts in, screaming in pain, like, Bertoni attacked me! And this is what I was like, oh.
Same.
I was like, there it is. And this is when I was like, oh, okay, I guess Bertoni's still on Coruscant, even though that wasn't made abundantly clear in the last scene.
She's day drunk somewhere and just has no idea what's going on.
Over at Bertoni's bungalow, she claims that the last thing she remembers is walking into her office and then she just happened to wake up in the East Corridor. She seems genuinely shocked when Lieutenant Fivehead says that Senator Lolo is like, she attacked me. And says that she was like, I wouldn't attack her. I'd at least attack somebody important if I was going to attack somebody. Ooh, what a burn.
She does not give a fuck.
No. She's like, oh no, it was a harmless bug. I wouldn't even bother with him. And Dichi was my friend. Why would I kill him? And I'm like, you know what? She's out of line, but the logic's sound. I got one eye on Lolo.
You're not wrong. You're just an asshole.
Right? The lieutenant goes on to say the poison was for Radians only, but it was developed by the Campinos. Oh my gosh, I kind of went off track with that one.
I like that.
I think I made that mistake last season. That sounds vaguely familiar. Bertoni's like, I seriously had nothing to do with this. Even this is made by my people. Totally wasn't me. And Padme's like, well, wait. But if it was Rodians, then Lolo would be affected. And then she realizes she's saying all of this out loud, like, way to talk your way through the conclusion with the person standing right behind
Yeah,
you.
it unravels quickly at that point.
As Padme is thinking all of this out loud, Lolo gets scary, and Padme, while wielding a blaster, and look at the Chancellor, like showing all of his cards, just smiling in the background over here. He's
And
like,
that is a face
yes.
that says, do it.
I made a prediction as to why I thought Lolo would kill Senator Ono, and I was like, could it be that simple that she just wanted to be senator? But she grabs Padme as Padme's figuring it out. She's wielding a blaster. Chancellor is smiling. Nobody look at him right now, or else they'll catch on to him. And Lolo was like, after what he did, he's no longer fit to run the people. So I guess I was half right that she wanted to be senator, but her motives were a little bit deeper than what I thought. It turns out she was the one who tried to scare Ono off at the docks. She was the one who attacked them at the docks. And she's confessing everything in front of the detective. Smart. She's holding him hostage. And he's like, anyways, I'm just going to use my favorite data pad over here to activate some reinforcements. Since her back's to the door, I could pretty much see how this one's going to finish up.
Guess now we know who's in charge of those funny little constable bots anyway.
Yeah, that guy. They cut her off at the pass, but Padme decides to embody Skywalker and just punches her clean out.
Yeah, I noticed she like shook her hand after like it hurt, like, but she did it.
The Chancellor announces over at the Senate chamber that they came down in favor of more troops. And here's this fucker smiling again. Dude, seriously. I had another screenshot of him smiling. Success. Outside the Senate chambers, Padme and Senator Smits walk out in a state of shock. And the Chancellor walks up and he goes, I didn't support this order for more troops either. Bullshit.
I mean, I engineered the whole thing, but I didn't vote for this one.
Yeah, but democracy must stand. For now. Da, 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 da. So what did you think of this episode?
I actually kind of did like it, despite my preference to see an In the Trench Clone Wars story, which I always prefer that. But this was my original beef when the show was first airing. I was like, I want to see the action stories about the clones and learn about, let's spend a couple episodes on a different squad or something. Like, I didn't want to hear about bullshit going on in the Senate, like I don't want to hear about trade routes and policies. That stuff's all well and good if you like that, but I know Star Wars is always political and stuff, but I don't know, it's called Clone Wars. I want to see them. I want something more Band of Brothers, less fucking House of Cards, I guess.
Yeah, more good stuff, less season or episode 1, which was just all political mumbo jumbo, a lot of it.
They did do, they did some cloak and dagger sneaking around in the docks kind of stuff, and it was a fun little whodunit, but it didn't drag out too long either, so the pacing didn't make me get all tired with it. So I actually did like this episode just fine. It was one of my favorites for reasons stated, but I did not hate this episode at all.
I liked it too. I thought it had a lot of good twists and turns. But now that cute moment of Ono's grounded nature, that display that I talked about in the beginning, is now forever marred by the fact that she just wanted to interrupt him so she could poison his drink. That cute little moment where I was like, oh, he's so grounded. He wants to do this himself. And then she's like, oh no, here, let me help you.
Yeah, looking back on it just ruins it now.
Yep. And Rodians have still the coolest eyes in the galaxy, even when they're all sinister and stuff. I kept getting distracted by that. I had to rewind it a few times because I was like, ooh, galaxy.
It's always nice to see Rodian characters that aren't just Greedo getting shot in the canteen over and over again.
I had a thought about the quote for this episode, and I didn't really feel like this one worked as well as a lot of the other ones. A lot of them are really on the nose, and this one is searching for truth is easy, accepting the truth is hard. But they didn't really have a truth that was hard to swallow. It's not like there was a big betrayal or anything. It was just...
The quote for this one felt a little canned for me. Just like, all right, we need one. Pull it out of the fucking fortune cookie or something.
Yeah, like it's a good quote, but I feel like it would have worked better for the last episode where it was all about mistruths and deception. I just felt like that would have been a lot better for that episode.
Bottom line, if somebody at the Senate offers you a drink, don't take it.
Yeah, no, you are like Mad Eye Moody. You drink out of your own canteen
Yeah.
only.
In between last episode where there's no security and anybody can just walk in and there's no way to sniff out fucking poison in the senator's drinks, like I'd vote holographically or some shit. I'm not going in there.
Work from home day.
It's a big galaxy. I mean, there might be murder plots going on we didn't even hear about on the other side of the Senate. Like it seems like a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good with political mumbo stuff. I'm just, yep, we can just not.
If you're not getting poisoned, then Cad Bane's crawling through the vents or something's happening. So it's a
Oh,
dangerous job.
Cad Bang. I miss that guy.
Okay, Buffy season 2 episode 15, Phases. My prediction: someone will go through an unusual phase and become something they usually aren't. Bit of a giveaway. Although when I made the prediction and saw the title of the episode, I didn't quite make the leap to how it would apply. So here we go. All right, so we open at school. Willow and Oz are chatting. They had a movie date. It's all very wholesome and awkward. They're still sort of talking in circles around each other, but they're clearly into each other.
Let's have a Catherine shout out. Did you see what they were doing at the beginning of the episode? Oz was actually staring at the cheerleading trophy that Amy's mom is locked into. He goes, "The eyes are following you." I
Right.
like that.
I did notice how he was looking at the trophy case. I forgot to make a note of it, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So while this isn't the one by Cordelia's locker, it is now established where she is in the school. And this is actually the same hallway. I went back and checked that it had the Angel, Buffy, Willow, Xander, Jenny showdown in the last episode.
Right.
She watched all of that go down.
I mean, she's stuck in a statue. I mean, at least she got some entertainment once in a while. Shit.
I just like keeping track of her because I've never done a watch through keeping track of what she notices in the school.
Oh, God. Fate worse than death. So right after they're done chatting, Oz bumps into the token jerk horny guys, and they're all like, "How far you gotten with her? I want to get on some of that Buffy Willow act." Like he's a little over the top. Like guys were like that, but this guy was pouring it on.
You've really mastered the single entendre.
That's, and it went right. He tried to compute that, and it just didn't go through, and he just let it go.
Yeah. Was this thing with Teresa ever something that happened in your school? Like knocking down her books so that they could look up her skirt? Like, was that a thing guys ever did?
No, I mean, I was technically in a rural high school, and I got all our classes were 30, 40 people tops. And if somebody was being, even back then in the 90s, if someone was being like that, nobody would have put up with it, honestly. I mean,
It's nice.
there was plenty of relationships where guys were being jerks and all that stuff. But as for blatant, looking up the skirt in the middle of the hallway, that didn't happen at our school really, and nobody would have fucking put up with it. Like somebody would have punched somebody out if they'd been trying that.
Well, that actually makes me feel better. That's good.
I mean, yeah, because when you live in a small town like where I came from, and all these students bust in and stuff, yeah, I mean, if you got known as the guy who was being, the creepy skirt looker upper, like that shit would stick to you for forever, right? Like that's just small towns. So Willow and Buffy are talking, and what I hear from the way Willow's talking about Oz, he's still being a gentleman and holding back. I'm like, Willow's like, "I'm DTF now." That's what I'm hearing. It's so many words.
She's like, "I want smoochies now."
And she wants at least some smoochies. So she sticks her foot in her mouth about not wanting to be the only girl in high school without a real boyfriend, and that really hits.
I had that quote too. Yeah, that was nice.
But turns it around by saying Xander's phone number is 1-800 I'm dating a skanky bitch, which is pretty hard on Cordelia, I thought.
Yeah, no, that's not fair. Like, when they talked about her being trashy in the last episode, she's wearing a freaking golf sweater set.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's nothing trashy about that. She's not a skanky hoe. I don't like this for Willow. It's not a good look.
Right.
Not a big fan.
Buffy says meow, and Willow's like, "Oh, thank you very much." Like, She's not often. She has never been the catty, jealous girl before, so she's kind of leaning into it. But this means that Buffy, she's all clued in on the secret closet affair, because I don't know if in the last episode we see Buffy being told about it or her reaction to it. So this episode is just sort of,
true.
She just sort of knows about it now. So they talked at some point.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, at Lover's Lane, Cordelia and Xander, they're like making out over like, it looks like an LA's nightscape stretching off into the distance. I'm like, how fucking big is Sunnydale? This place is a quantum place. I now have a theory that Sunnydale is expanding like the known universe and just nobody's noticing. It's like there's an army base there today and everyone's like, yeah, I think it's been here the whole time. But anyway, Xander won't stop talking about Willow and Buffy, and Cordelia's getting justifiably annoyed by that, and she's calling him on it.
More smacking.
Yes, more fucking smacking. It's not even the last in this episode. Can Buffy and Angel are broken up. They're picking up the slack elsewhere.
Picking up the smack.
Ugh. I hate that. Well done.
Thank you.
So Cordelia comments on the full moon, and earlier Buffy made a comment about being an animal, and the episode is called Phases. So this is where I clue in. I'm like, all right. I'm like, someone's a werewolf, and it's definitely going to be Oz. I'm like, this is ringing a strange bell in my old 90s memory for some reason. So anyway, not 10 seconds later, there's a werewolf or something in the bushes watching them make out. I'm like, oh, that was quick. Now I'm like, oh, if Oz is a werewolf, is that because is he holding back because he's just scared he'll eat Willow? Is that why? Is he doing another tragic hero thing? So the lip smacking is mercifully stopped by the werewolf attacking. Thank you, werewolf.
I mean to thank you for that.
So yeah, the werewolf rips through Cordelia's father's soft top on the car and they drive away. Xander's like, I told you I heard them.
Yeah, couldn't even resist shutting up about the I told you so. Like, shut up.
Updated theory is that now Oz is subconsciously trying to kill Xander for Willow.
I'm on board.
Next day at the school, the gang's outside. They're all inspecting the hole in the roof. And Cordelia does that little head on the shoulder thing to Xander, which for girls I've learned that is quite a big tell. It means she likes him maybe more than she's letting on. That's like a tell. Oz is here, so was he the werewolf, or is he pretending? Does he not know he's the werewolf? I'm full of questions at this point. Or maybe even an angry family member, because we've seen those. Uncle Enyo showed up, so does Oz have some sort of family secret? I have many questions at this point. I'm convinced it's him at this point. I'm just going with it. So Giles says several animal corpses have been found around town. There's some evidence that maybe if it is a werewolf, it might not strictly follow the classic full moon change thing, as Giles says, and he's all giddy because a werewolf is a classic. And we haven't really seen the spin that this show will put on that, because this show always kind of does something cool with the classic monster stuff.
His glee in this scene makes me so happy. And so does the quote, "It could be erroneous." And Cordelia pops up, "Or it could be a crock."
All right, so now we're in gym class, and they're doing some kind of self-defense thing. And Oz is, with Willow, and you can see Xander is jealous. He's just on full display. He's like, hey. Like, again, misplaced high school jealousy is such a funny thing. So here's pervy guy whose name is Larry, and apparently he got bit by a dog and he required like 39 stitches. And I'm like, shit, man, you fucking really lost your arm. Anyway, that's not suspicious at all. Oz says he got bit on his finger by his cousin, which seems like a throwaway line, but it becomes irrelevant. We're going to get to that. So Buffy gets in Larry's face, and he immediately finds, another girl to pick on. But Willow's like, remember, you're supposed to be a meek, girly girl. And Buffy's like, quit spoiling my fun.
I enjoyed the line, and I'm one of the few.
So I'm like, Buffy's definitely going to like ninja kick somebody in the face by accident or something. Which sort of happens because Buffy gets Pervy Larry, what a name to get stuck with. Pervy Larry is a demo partner, and he blatantly grabs her ass. I feel like it must have been a behind the scenes thing where he had to do it, and Sarah must have been like, just grab it and let's do this, because he fucking grabbed her ass. Anyway, she flips him good. She just fucking grabs him and tosses him like a sack of potatoes, and Larry's a pretty big guy, so that was satisfying.
Oz, that works too.
He's good with the little quips.
Yep.
All right, in the library, Giles has his moon and globe out, and he's talking about how...
I want this.
It's cool, isn't it?
Very cool.
The phases of the moon can affect people's minds. My note here is, his edible kicks in as Xanders makes a moon pie joke, and Giles has an extended titter about it.
It wasn't funny, and I actually had to look into who wrote this episode. The writers of this episode, Rob DeHotel and Dean Batali, also co-wrote Dark Age, the Giles-centric episode with Igon, right. Puppet Show, who can forget that one, and Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. And it seems weird for writers who wrote the first Giles-centric episode to write him thinking something Xander said was funny.
Yeah, and he thought it was really funny. He just kept giggling.
The girls were the audience going,
yeah,
oh, that wasn't good.
So confirmed, this is the new werewolf rule, is 3 nights of the month are werewolf time. Giles describes many traits that can come out, like aggression and all that stuff, and Buffy says, basically a male. Zing! Don't jump to conclusions, Giles says, and Buffy says it was a short step and there was the conclusion. I'm like, she just gets so many good one-liners. It's entirely possible that the werewolf could also be a woman, and absolutely no silver bullets, Giles says. It's still a person the rest of the month, so the plan is to capture it alive.
Yeah, and that actually is so different to the approach that a lot of other media makes concerning werewolves. They're just like, just kill them. Just silver bullets. Just go. Like, Supernatural is so quick to shoot them. Everything, and it's actually nice to see them being treated as humans in the Buffyverse.
Yeah, when it comes to werewolves, that's different. So back at Makeout Point, and Giles and Buffy are sneaking around, and the only news is, oh my god, you won't believe who Tracy's making out with. She's such a total slag. That's what it reminded me of, is Vicky from Whittle Britain.
Yeah, but no, but.
Oh my god. I had to use that joke.
Yep.
So Giles wants to go around and tap on windows to canvass for sightings, and Buffy's just like, Giles, no.
No one has seen anything.
No.
Best line.
So I'm kind of at this point hoping there's more of a plan than just walking around in the woods with their flashlights. And then Buffy gets scooped up in like an Ewok tree trap, so she's stuck up in a cargo net. And here's some guy with a rifle who gets to drop on him. And his name's Kane, and he's hunting werewolves too. So he lets Buffy down, but then he makes some really gross comments about, what the older man and the younger girl are doing in the woods. And Giles is ready to go fucking fisticuffs. He's ready to... Buffy has to hold him back, which it's funny to see Giles that riled up. But he's right to be mad.
This guy looks like he's auditioning to be a librarian.
Yeah. And he's like, he's a librarian. He looks like a librarian, and you're a girl, so he's very dismissive. So he's a werewolf hunter looking for his 13th kill. They ask him, doesn't it bother you that they're a person the other 28 days of the month? And he says, that's why I only hunt them the other 3. Apparently werewolves are attracted to the sexual heat thing, so Lover's Lane type places are prime hunting grounds. And I'm like, oh, this really is a Joss Whedon show, isn't
it? Yep.
So anyway, Mr. Charming Kane takes his leave, and then Buffy makes a Mind Furrier joke? Okay.
Yeah. She also really plays into the dumb blonde stereotype, and I've done the same thing in the past, so it's a weakness of misogynists because they're so quick to think we're just as stupid as they think they are. So it's really fun to use this to my advantage and to Buffy's advantage, because it really worked in this case. She managed to get away without further incident from Kane, who's that 90s guy who's been in everything.
All right, so on the street at night, an innocent schoolgirl is walking home at fucking 10 p.m. apparently from school, and she hears something growling in the bushes. This is Teresa, I believe. She hears something growling in the bushes, and we've been so busy looking for werewolves, we forgot about Angel, and boom, here he is. And he said, oh, it's dangerous out here. I maybe better walk you home.
So who would you rather run into in the woods, Angel or the wolf? Or on the street? Either or. My money's on the wolf.
I'd be fucked either way.
Personally, I'd go with the wolf. I would not ever want to meet Angelus in anywhere.
It's sort of just another version of choosing the bear, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
I choose the werewolf over that guy.
Yep.
So over at the Bronze, we do some quick drive-by making out with some extras. That's picking up the smack. Cordelia and Willow are commiserating about idiot Xander, and there's a good quote by Willow about how he's looking around at all he doesn't have and doesn't see what he does have, which is wise, Yoda-worthy words, reminding me of all his life he looked away, never his mind on where he was, what he was doing. Had the same vibe.
But why is Willow calling Cordelia a skanky hoe in one scene and then sitting with her and having girl talk in another scene? I don't like this for Willow. I'm not a big fan. Bad Willow. Yeah. If you're gonna be someone's friend, you don't call them a skanky hoe in the next breath.
That's right. Not how that works. Say it to their face.
Exactly. Respectfully, you are a skanky hoe.
The old quote: "Real friends stab you in the front."
Exactly.
So Willow says she and Oz are in a bit of a holding pattern, and then they do a gripe about guys being dumb, which is hard to argue that. And then the last thing I expected to happen is the werewolf then literally drops down from the ceiling onto their table and panic ensues. I mean, even the 90s van stopped playing.
But how did the werewolf get that far into the bar where it could drop down from the ceiling?
There's definitely some holes in the roof or some shit.
It's raining wolves. Hallelujah.
The Bronze owner has got to be like, I just got this place back in working order. I'm going under here.
I'm going to have to sell more scones to make up for this.
That's why he's pushing all the scones. So the Giles mobile shows up and Buffy runs in and the gang sort of like ushers her in, then closes the door behind her, which is the right thing to do because, you know, she's the only one who should be fighting them. But it's kind of funny. It's like it's almost like she ran in and expected them to follow her, and they just closed the door and went, "Yeah, good luck with that." But it's funny, but it's the way. That's what they're supposed to do.
Heading in, I have a note that Giles and Buffy were heading in at top speed because I think that Citroen was going at 1 mile an hour.
Yeah, shaking all the way. So Buffy searches around, and of course, if you want to trigger a fight, you got to go up on the main stage. So the werewolf appears and a fight ensues. Wolfie escapes out the window, and it's got to be the same one the owner just replaced that Buffy threw the guy through last time. So Kane the Hunter shows up, fucking rifle in hand and all, and he does a little belittling women again. And now Giles is all, "Now look here, you." It's all right again. Kane says, "First they tell me I can't hunt elephants for ivory. Now it's the ethical treatment of werewolves." And I'm like, this guy's a font of charisma. Don't you just love him?
No, we can't hunt elephants for ivory because they're far superior to humans. And also, werewolves, they're humans, right? Like, I feel like he just completely forgets that fact that they're humans.
This is where that great quote from Aliens is relevant again. It says, "You don't see them fucking each other over for a percentage."
Yeah.
All right, so Wolfie's out in the streets hunting, and he comes across Angel and the girl he grabbed, Teresa. And I'm not at this point, I'm not sure if she's dead or just knocked out or whatever. And they sort of face off, and Angel, he's all vamp-faced. He backs off, and it totally makes sense to me that werewolves would be the sort of enemy a vampire would take seriously. And it's, you know, it's one of those monster tropes I'm good with, is that a werewolf is an even match for a vampire. So I did like that. So back at makeout point again, Giles is taking a nap in the Citroen. Buffy joins him. He's on duty. You can tell with his eyes are closed. They hear a report on the radio about a student that was killed, and they have one more night to catch Wolfie before the window closes for the month.
She's been dead for, 20 minutes? They already have her name on the news with an autopsy? What is this timeline?
Oh, man, I got a point of contention with that, believe me. All right, so in the woods, Wolfie's lying on the ground, and he transforms into Big Shock Oz. And this would be the worst part of this whole thing, is waking up in a park, and you're naked, and then you got to fucking get back to wherever you live. Like, this is the real challenge.
That's the walk of shame nobody wants to do.
And Oz says, "Huh." So I'm like, oh, maybe he didn't know what he was before this cycle. Okay, so this is an interesting angle. At Oz's house, which is like a big fucking house, like not a parent in sight in this place either. It's just, he's got this big old house to himself. But he's on the phone with his aunt, and he asks if the little cousin, Jordy, I think his name was, who bit him, just asks if he was a werewolf. And at this point, I'm like, is the whole family like got lycanthropy in it? Is this something they were aware of? But I guess that's not how it happened. But that's still fucking hilarious.
They're so chill. Like, he just casually asks if his little cousin is a vampire. Sorry, a werewolf. And they're just like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's a thing. That's why they asked about his cut. How's that healing, by the way? Like, what?
What he was talking to was just like, look, I can't talk now. Jordy just put a grilled cheese in the VCR. I gotta go. He didn't even hear what Oz said. So at school, Oz is walking around a bit of a haze. He's trying to process all this, and he seems as mystified as anyone about it. So he walks into the library where the gang is, and he's very worried someone might have been hurt. Xander talks about how much he knows about that male feral instinct from the time he was a hyena. Buffy's like, I thought you didn't remember anything about that. Xander's just wasting our time with this whole display, and then he comes up with Larry as his prime suspect. And I was like, you know what? Okay, honestly, that's not a bad assumption at this point. But Oz is totally on eggshells right now. And I'm betting in this moment he's just trying to build up the courage to tell them, just because that's the kind of guy he is. But he seems too scared to do that at the moment.
This whole thing about thinking it's Larry seems out of order. This would make more sense if we didn't know that Oz was the werewolf.
Yeah.
Like,
honestly.
I get we're supposed to see this from Oz's point of view. But it just doesn't make sense because now we have this whole scene in the locker room that's coming up, and it doesn't even make sense. Like, what does that do with the plot? It develops a side character in a very weird way, but it doesn't really do anything, and it kind of slows down. Like, I have an issue with the pacing in this episode, and I don't think I think this really should have been reversed.
Absolutely. 100% agree. If the locker scene had taken place before we got the confirmation about Oz, it would have flow better as a story. But yeah, it seems like we took a step backwards there. But as funny as this scene was, so Xander goes to force a confession out of Larry, and Giles is like, yeah, go do that. And like, he knows Xander's probably about to get beat up, but he's like, yeah, go ahead.
Just get out of my face.
So Giles delegates some research to Willow, and he and Buffy leave the room. So Oz is looking all stressed, and Willow says you can help me research, but he knows he's got a rough night coming up, so he takes off. Buffy sees him leave, and so she's feeling bad for her friend. So in the locker room, Xander confronts Larry and makes, I know your big secret. And then it's one of those situations like, we're definitely not talking about the same thing here, are we? Because Larry seems like he's caught with something. So we're not talking about lycanthropy here. Larry's big secret is that he's gay, which coming out in the 90s was a bigger deal, especially if you're a guy in high school. So this news has shaken Xander to his core, but now he's in this involuntary circle of trust with Larry,
who also thinks he's gay because he's just like, I've been there, I've been through this, and he's like, they're gonna find out I'm gay, and he goes, well, when I say been there, like, he tries to backpedal because no homo, but yeah, like, just Larry's bringing up this whole side character, and we have an out character on Buffy in the 90s. Yay. And the hypersexualization that he was going through at the beginning of this episode is actually a common trope for people who are trying to cover up that they are closeted. They just go super the other way, and they always have a partner. They always have a partner of the opposite gender, a beard, if you will. Yeah. And they have a lot of those comments where they're really quick to point out if anybody else is gay and really nail them because they don't want to face it themselves, so they're taking it out on this person. So this actually really tracks with the behavior, especially in the...
I mean, it didn't really fit in with this overarching story very well, or the way it was fit in, but it was still a cool thing to have in a TV show in the 90s for sure. So I guess can't call him Pervy Larry anymore. That's just his smokescreen.
Yeah.
All right, the library. Willow's research reveals one dangerous candidate, but of course it's just Buffy.
Most of those were not my fault.
I like how Buffy didn't... I was waiting for her to go, who is it? She knew right away.
Yeah, she could tell by the way her bestie was talking. She's like, okay, maybe, those weren't my fault.
Buffy's very self-aware about the trouble she causes, but, that's just the way it is. Willow laments how Oz is hot and cold. Well, lukewarm and cold. They leave the library and say how it was easier to tell if a guy liked you when they were younger, and they just come up and hit you in the arm, which Xander then does to Buffy 2 seconds later.
No.
Willow departs to check on/do Cordelia's history homework. Xander thinks this would be a great time to panic at those two hanging out, and this is the face he made.
Be a good time to panic.
That's the face of terror. Buffy says, how'd it go with Larry? Poor homophobe Xander. What's that supposed to mean? I'm very straight, Buffy. But Larry's off there. But here's the thing, though, is that Xander doesn't spill Larry's secret. He could have, any guy I know in the 90s would have been like, yeah, he's gay. But he didn't do that. It's Larry's secret to tell. And to his credit, Xander did not betray that trust. So that was good of him.
I had the same note that it was surprisingly decent of Xander.
Yep.
Yep.
But anyway, Larry's off the suspect list officially for being the werewolf. So at the funeral home, Buffy works out that the Sunnydale High victim was killed by a vampire, not a werewolf. And they must have had viewing hours, but it seems like they just walked into this place in the middle of the night with nobody there.
Well, I have a lot of issues with this because the logic leap seems really out of left field. And she's been dead for maybe 12 hours at this point, and they're already having a wake.
Yeah, shit. She got fast-tracked. There's some timing stuff I definitely want to talk about. So Buffy's beating herself up, but Xander he actually says some supportive things here about the good she does and stuff like that. He's actually being a pretty good friend in this moment. And then at which point Teresa sits up in her coffin. She's a vampire. So Mortal Kombat begins again. And Teresa plays dirty and says Angel sends his love. Like he's playing dirty. So my question is, I don't know if it's been established or if I've just forgotten about how long it takes to turn a vampire. Like, did she just turn or was she faking dead? And what about the coroner and funeral director and that? And then I just wrote, never mind.
The transition happens at the speed of plot.
That is
what I've been able to determine over the years.
Okay. Teresa starts to, she's winning the fight. She's got Buffy on the ropes, but Xander racks up a stake point. He takes her out himself. So a rare vamp kill by Xander. So, once in a while he does come through. This is one of his better scenes where he's being a good friend and a good friend.
Yeah. I just don't understand the end of this scene.
Oh, right. Where Xander proves he can be a supportive friend. And if I'm not mistaken, I see a weirdly creepy early sign of Buffy gravitating towards him. And I'm like, no, do not rebound on Xander.
No,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like what the F are the writers doing here? The vibes at the end of the scene make me think that we're heading in a Buffy Xander direction, but Willow also loves him and he's with Cordelia. Like, fuck off, Joss Whedon. You're not going to be at the center of the... Oh.
I need a break from all these romantic entanglements. I'm going to go read an Archie comic. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't like where it's going with Xander because he isn't all that. Xander isn't it, guys. Give it up.
So meanwhile in the woods, Kane's gearing up in his shaggin' wagon, which really just looks like a Supernatural style hunter's van. Like Sam and Dean would have worked with this guy probably. Like he has the hunter look, like he would be at the meetings kind of thing. The fucking heavy coat and all that shit.
He'd be the one that when they'd go to the bar, they would warn them away from working with him. Like he's one of those rogue ones that kind of goes off on his own. Yeah.
Same feel though. I feel like Dean's approach would be like, he's a fucking jerk, but he kills werewolves. Like he would still work with them, right? And Sam would be like, no.
I also have issues with timing of this scene because I get the pouring of the bullet is the timing of the episode. However, he immediately snaps that thing open and takes out the bullet. Like he should be like,
now that would be funny. Ah, shit.
It just cuts to him swearing with it outside the tent.
You just see the van rocking around. Fuck!
Oh, shit!
Winchester's roadside. This guy's an amateur.
Never mind.
All right, so over at Oz's big house, he looks like he's got these box of like medieval shackles to contain himself, and I'm like, why does he have these? Like, what the fuck?
Where'd you get those?
Box looks like they've been in the basement for fucking ever.
Just something his parents had from the 80s,
Jeez, there's some questions I don't need answers to. Those books should just stay on the shelf.
Maybe that leads to the theory that lycanthropy actually goes throughout the family. Maybe they had it to string someone else up when they were younger.
I would buy that.
Maybe that's why there's no parents right now. They're in their own little caves off somewhere, locking themselves up somewhere else.
Does Oz just think they leave for business for 3 months or 3 days out of the month or something?
And also, why wouldn't they eventually tell him? Like, you think that they'd notice if their son was turning into a werewolf. Also, there'd be more werewolves around.
Yeah, puberty's he's gonna turn into a werewolf pretty soon. We gotta give him the talk. All right, so Willow comes in and she wants to talk now, and he just wants her out of there. But she wants some damn answers, and she's being very unwillow-like. She's being in his face, and then she sees the chains, but that's too late. He's starting to turn, so he collapses to the floor. And then he chases, Werewolf Oz chases Willow out to the street, and she decks him with a trash can, which is pretty funny. Here comes Kane's van down the street, and I bet you if you were there 5 minutes earlier, you would have seen Harry and Marv in their plumbing truck going by casing houses. Same look. It's the van slowly creeping along the street.
Well, this would be the town to do it. None of the parents are ever freaking home.
Seriously. A lot of big houses with just teenagers, if any.
Yeah.
All right, at the library, Buffy reports Teresa's a vampire, but she's also been staked. And Giles is getting this big badass trank rifle ready. And I'm like, whoa, shit, where'd he get this thing?
I have so many questions of where people are getting stuff in this episode.
Yeah, like who's supplying here? Like this is some kind of Watcher underground with fucking mail order crossbows and shit.
1-800-WATCHER supplies. Hi, I'd like to order 1 trank gun, 1 set of chains. I don't know what for.
So Oz is chasing Willow through the woods, and at this point, I'm betting she's regretting wearing the bright yellow overalls.
Which I think is actually I think it's actually a choice of the wardrobe people to make her bright like a prey kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
And also, if they were fighting a werewolf last night, why did they just take out chains? Why didn't they take out this trank gun last night?
Well, it hadn't been delivered yet, you know.
Oh, right. Yes, the 24-hour delivery time. Exactly.
They don't have Watcher Prime where it's overnighted. It's like, I got the crossbow bolts, but the crossbow won't be here till next Tuesday. Oz pretty much catches Willow, but he smells something on the air, a greater threat, and he leaves her alone and runs off. Willow runs back to the library, and they're just answering, they're just asking themselves the question, how are we going to find this thing? And then she just bursts through the door and says, it's Oz. So, okay, now we know who we're looking for. So Kane gets Oz in his sights. He's got silver bullets at the ready. I assume he made some more after he burned himself for the first ones. But anyway, Buffy ninja kicks his ass and fights Wolvie. It's a bit of a free-for-all here. So Giles sights up the trank gun, but they all get knocked down. And of course, it's poetically, Willow picks up the gun and tranks Werewolf Oz.
I enjoyed this Three Stooges fall when Buffy falls into Giles really and Willow here. Yeah.
Kane gets up and says, no wonder this town is so full of monsters. There's no one here to, man enough to kill them. And then Buffy, like Superman, bends his rifle barrel. And another great one-liner. Let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. And he does the wise thing and leaves.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure of that.
So the next big question the next day is, how do we look at Oz now? Meanwhile, Larry's turned over a new leaf and he's being a better person and Xander's his dear friend. I'm like, that's nice.
I hate that Xander isn't talking about Oz here. Like, how are we ever going to look at him the same way again? Like you did before. Larry's the exact same frickin' person. This just sounds, I don't know. I didn't like that.
Xander and his fragile masculinity. I thought Larry was a much more likable person when he had embraced his truth.
Yeah.
And he even goes to a point where the guys he was hanging with, they bully another girl and knock her books down. He picks them up. So he's being a much nicer person.
Yeah.
So Xander, he's worried about Willow's safety around Oz now. And Willow and Oz meet up and talk. And the news that he's a werewolf still seems pretty new to him. So there's still a bunch of unanswered questions here unless I completely missed something. But I guess they're leaving room to explore that story. So that's cool. But it's cool to me that he's as surprised as everybody about what he is. I was expecting it to be, he was hiding the secret and moved into town because he had to leave the old one or something like that. So it's, it's kind of cool that he's just sort of bobbing along with what's happening here.
Yeah, and Xander unfortunately comes across as just jealous guy talk right now because of all of the Xander shippage the writers are trying to push this episode, that everybody's in love with him for some reason. So it doesn't come across the way that I think it's supposed to, where he's supposed to be concerned about his best friend. It just comes up as jealous.
Yeah, definitely. So Oz thinks, while he's talking to Willow, that he should keep clear of her, but she really sticks by him. She likes who he is. They establish a no-biting rule, and after another awkward departure, she comes back and gives him a smooch. So she doesn't wait for him to make the first move. And then the episode just sort of ends there, and I thought that was a nice little ending.
I'm sorry I almost ate you is a greeting card I kind of need to see made now. And the fact that he's like, oh yeah, this is fairly freaksome. This may take a couple of days to get used to. Days?
Hey, that's a long
Sir.
time. And they could do 3 other adventures in 3 days in Sunnydale.
They could have so many funerals in that time.
You're gonna run out of kids. Jesus. All right, conclusion. So I guess my prediction wasn't too far off.
Nope.
Like I said before, I did remember that there was a werewolf character in the show. It was just another 90s osmosis memory I picked up. And while I figured it had to have been Seth Green because he's the only other real recurring character I noticed, it wasn't until I watched this episode that I actually confirmed that for real. Like I was always 99%, but now we're at 100%. I did like the episode. I'm all for Monster Squad style antics, and here's a stand-up guy with a terrible curse, and so that's always an interesting dynamic. It's not at all dissimilar to the character I told you about from the Forgotten Realms books. The guy who turned into a panther. He wanted to be a hero, but he had to deal with this horrible dark side. So I'm looking forward to how that's gonna play into things. My guess, future prediction is now there's going to be a new Oz's room in the library for 3 nights a week, which, he'll probably be sitting in there freaking out while they're reading books or something. And now their last questions were, does Oz have parents in that big house? I mentioned this earlier, no sign of any parents or anything like that. And did Cordelia get her history homework done? So, Cordelia just sort of faded into the background in this episode. It's just kind of got halfway through it and we never saw her again.
But I can pretty much confirm that Willow did get Cordelia's history homework done. What did you think of the design of this werewolf? I only ask because this isn't really a spoiler. They completely changed the design of the werewolf the next time you see it.
Oh, is that right? So this was sort of like the pilot episode werewolf.
Yeah. Victor enjoys this one.
Okay, I didn't mind this one because, it looked bestial and stuff and it had, scary eyes and stuff. It's live action. Werewolves are a hard sell. It's hard to make them look really cool. I used to like the werewolves back in the Underworld movies when they were first starting out, but those were heavily, there was a lot of special effects involved there. This was a guy running around in a suit, but the suit, it wasn't the worst werewolf I've ever seen, but you sort of have to suspend a little reality and have fun with it. So, it looks scary. If that thing was a guy in a suit chasing me in the middle of the night, I'd shit my pants. Exactly. So it was scary. So, I had that going for it. But, if they're going to change the look of the werewolf, is it going to be better or worse? You don't have to answer now. Let me find out. But
no, that's going to be something you're going to judge.
We'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did like it. I feel like Oz is now, he's an interesting, fully realized monster character in the group. So that's always fun.
And it's actually a fun fact that I forgot about, but Seth Green and Allison Hannigan, this isn't actually the first time that they're portraying a couple.
Oh, which 90s movie was it?
My Stepmother is an Alien from 1988 with Dan Aykroyd and Kim Basinger.
Oh, I've seen it, but literally probably not since the 80s.
Yeah, they were they were like young kids, teenagers or whatever, preteens, and they were dating in the movie as well.
That's funny. Oz makes a comment about movies earlier in this episode about how movies you just sort of watch them and then you never think about them again and forget about them. And I'm like, how many of those movies did Seth Green do in the 90s? Can't Hardly Wait and stuff like that, like routine movies and shit.
Well, remember, Seth Green is the only actor that was in both the movie and the TV series. Even though he was cut from the movie, He actually had a line. He was the nerd who ended up turning the basketball player.
Right.
Grueller, I think his name was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Seth Green was one of those guys you couldn't avoid in the 90s, but I never had a problem with Seth Green. I've always quite enjoyed him. You ever see that movie Rat Race that he was in?
Yes.
He's like Rowan Atkinson and John.
Mom loved that movie.
I thought he was pretty damn funny in that. That was a funny movie.
Yeah. And plus I enjoyed him, of course, in a movie that I quote way too often, Goldmember. With all of the Austin Powers, but Goldmember stands alone is probably my favorite.
He's a dyed-in-the-wool Gen Xer for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then of course he went on to do Robot Chicken, who a lot of the stars from Buffy, including Sarah Michelle Gellar herself, and rest in peace, Michelle Trachtenberg. Mm-hmm. She was the gummy bear in Robot Chicken, the famous one where she's like hopping through the field and she's like, I'm a gummy bear, and then she gets stuck in a bear trap, eats her own leg out, and then immediately gets stuck in another one. That was Michelle Trachtenberg, and I learned that the day she passed away, I learned that that was the one who was voicing it.
Wow.
And as soon as I heard the screaming, I went, oh yeah, I can hear it.
My sister and I used to watch Robot Chicken all the time. I don't know how many seasons it got to, but we sort of drifted away as it went on. But those are first early seasons. Boy, we must have watched those 100 fucking times.
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar was a very frequent voice actor for that show too.
Yeah, it seems like it would have been a fun one to work on.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these 2 episodes, I guess. I mean, it would have been easy to hate on both of these for different reasons, but I did enjoy both of these episodes.
Buckle up. We've got some one-offs coming up. It's going to be really exciting. Anyways, I think that's it for us this evening. Bye.